I really don't think there's anything more I can do with this. I think we're probably ready to assemble. And I had a couple of people ask what kind of wax was it I was using yesterday. Well, it's this one right here. I think it's made in Australia. Anyway, sure works well. I like the cut and polish feature. Except, the only thing I don't like about the cut and polish is that if I'm doing pen blanks, the grit in the polish will actually cut the metal. So a person has to be careful from that. I do have basically the same thing without the grit. However, I prefer the one with the grit. So anyway, that's what I'm using, guys. And gals. Now, before I start drilling holes for these screws in the body and also for this piece to be mounted on the bottom of the tenon here, there's a couple of things I want to mention. And that is that I was thinking, why can't a person make bushings, custom-made bushings for these for this body here, the same way as you have bushings for a pen? Now, I was checking the instructions from both Lee Valley and William Woodwright, and they all ask for a 1 1/16 inch hole drilled down through the body, except for at the very bottom, where it's a larger hole of about 1 5/8 to accommodate the actual grinding mechanism. So, like I say, why can't I make up bushings? And that would help me to be able to keep everything centered a lot better than I did. You probably noticed that occasionally, when it was turning on the lathe, there was quite a bit of wobble there. Okay, so I'm kind of thinking before I actually start working on the salt grinder with the zebra wood, or zebra, I don't know how you say it. I say zebra. Anyway, yeah, I'm thinking maybe I'm going to try and turn down some metal bushings on my metal lathe that will be custom made for pepper grinders. Maybe I'll never use them, except maybe on this. Anyway, another thing, the Wenge wood was not penetrated all the way through by the bleach. It only changed the surface. It didn't seem to affect down through into the wood at all, except for maybe, I'm guessing a 64th of an inch. Now, I didn't look at it under the microscope, but I don't need to. I can see it didn't go all the way through. So I'm wondering if possibly using a combination of the vacuum chamber and the pressure pot, could I force more bleach into the wood and have it colored all the way through, at least a little deeper. I'm just going to experiment with that. But I think I mentioned that I don't know what bleach will do under vacuum. It could suddenly start to boil, and then it could suddenly turn to a gas, which might be poisonous. Who knows? I don't know. So I just want to be careful. I have to look into it just a little bit, find out what happens to bleach when it boils. Now you're thinking boiling, it doesn't get hot. No, it doesn't. It stays basically at room temperature. In fact, it probably starts to cool down as it starts to evaporate. But it boils because there's no air pressure to keep it from expanding. Anyway, I think. I don't know. Got to try it out. But I guess I've talked enough here. Let's get the holes drilled for the screws. Now, not all of my ideas are good ideas, but I'm kind of wondering, why couldn't I, in order to get this in exactly the right place and be able to easily drill the holes for the screws, why couldn't I just sort of CA glue it in the right place here? Okay, now you'll notice here that this tenon was not turned exactly to the same round as the hole. So it has to be a little bit off center there in order for the rod, excuse me, to go all the way down properly. So if I put a little tiny drop of CA glue here and on the other side as well, not so much as I'm going to glue the rod in place, but just let it set, and then afterwards, when I take the rod out, it's not going to move very easily, and it'll be easy to drill the holes through. Now, this is probably going to be one of those ideas that when you're viewing this tonight, you're going to say, well, I sure won't do that. But anyway, let's give it a try here. See if I can very, very carefully. I'm just going to use CA medium here, just a tiny little smidgen here. Don't need very much. Okay. I'll do the same over here. That's all I'm going to do. Just a little bit. Well, this does not seem to want to be curing, so maybe if I take some accelerator here on the toothpick, it might start it. I don't want to use the spray, because if I use the spray, it might discolor the wood here. Well, this side looks like maybe it did cure. Oh, my toothpick adhered to it, so I guess it's curing. Okay, I think it's going to work there. So now while this is curing, it feels kind of hard on the outside. But I want to make sure it's cured all the way through. And yeah, when I'm turning this one down, if I was to use my Type B pen mandrel, which almost fit through this hole that I drilled here originally, all I have to do is just make it just a smidgen larger. Then I could turn these pieces down on the Type B pen mandrel. Then for sure the tenon is going to be centered on the hole. And so will the rest of it. At least that's my thinking. I'll have to try it and see. Now, for those of you who have ever used a pocket hole jig, this is the same idea. See, the idea is that the drill is going to be kept in the right spot by a metal guide. And I don't see why this shouldn't work. Well, this is kind of embarrassing. When I turned the drill press on, without thinking, I turned the camera off. But it worked just fine. Oh, I stripped it a little bit there. However, I'm convinced that if the glue comes loose, the screws are going to hold. Okay, I think that's going to be all right. Now, once again, if I use the pocket hole jig idea, it should be able to tell me where the screws have to go. Okay, now I won't need this piece on there, because if I put it on there, it's going to just fall off and be in the way. So let's put this on. And as you can see, we got just the right amount of threads here. Okay, I don't need this real tight. And now I can tell, yeah, the holes make, the metal holes make guides for exactly where I need to put the drill. Anyway, let's do it. Okay, this time I made sure I've got the camera running. That was so stupid. Now this time I'm not going to rely on the slip clutch on the electric drill, because these screws are just too small even for the softest setting. Yeah, anyway, I think you know what I'm talking about here. Alright, I'll put this on here. We'll just get it started. Okay, now we'll do this one. I am very spoiled. It's like I can't drive screws unless I use an electric drill. Whoops. I can't even drive screws with the electric drill. Okay. Alrighty. Now we'll do it the old-fashioned way here. That way I can feel it. Guess I could have gone a little bit more with the electric drill. Maybe I was getting paranoid. There we go. And easy does it here. As soon as it started getting tight, that should be it. Well, it looks good to me. Now the idea is, when I take this off, it shouldn't fall out. Okay. Yeah, I think that'll work. That is, it'll work after I get some peppercorns. I don't have any peppercorns. Should have picked some up at the store today. Anyway, it's basically done, folks. I'm sure it's going to work. I don't see why it won't. Well, this isn't too bad for my first one. I'm going to make the salt grinder exactly the same shape, as best I can anyway, and that's so they'll match if they're sitting side by side. However, the next one that I do, I will give it a little bit more pizzazz. I'll have like reversed beads on the bottom here, like little grooves. I could have actually done that fairly easy with this one, but I don't know, I had this thing about, in my mind I was thinking the more I cut it down with the tool, the less wood there's going to be, and this wood looks so nice that I just couldn't bring myself to, turn it away. Maybe that's silly. Anyhow, I think that looks really good. Yeah. I'm happy. So, being as that I'm going to do this one basically the same way, I'm not going to bother videoing it. However, if I do make special bushings, I'm going to show that to you. Otherwise, there's not much use videoing this one being done. Because like I say, I'm going to do it exactly the same shape. But I'll try and take a final shot of the two side by side when I actually finally get it done. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I like it best from this angle right here. I think that looks really nice. Yeah. All it needs is two little eyes here. Looks like a little man. Little arms sticking out. Okay, enough silliness.